Okay, so right now we have Free and we have Derpy, yes? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So main tank and Sombra.
Yeah,
Is this
probably
the main? Sorry, finish.
the worst. Sorry, I had to put it in my mouth. As Sombra, I'm probably getting the least value in the team, just because I don't really have experience playing with Sombra. But I think there's a lot of value in learning her.
Okay.
So this is probably the first week I'm playing Sombra as in a scrim.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm confused about how to get value with Sombra.
Okay,
So
that's something we can definitely focus on. And then, do we normally play the Ashe in this comp, or is this map specific?
we usually play Ashe in this comp. Yep.
Okay. That is okay. Yeah, Sombra is definitely a pretty hard character to get working. Okay. So we're waiting on your off tank, you said?
Off healer and main healer.
Your two supports. Okay.
Off tank's on a little break.
Oh, okay. Okay. Why don't we... Do you guys want to wait, or do you guys want to start looking at stuff?
Well, wait a couple.
Yeah, Papa's about to come in a second.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is Papa gone?
There we go.
There he is.
Hey, Papa.
Hello.
We're looking at the Tuesday game.
Oh no. Okay.
What do you mean?
And
no,
Spoogle
no?
should be here in a second, but we can move on.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and watch the first fight here. Okay, let's do a couple things here. So let's first start off with what's our plan here with this composition? So we picked this composition, right? So what do we know about this composition?
Well, the win condition's poke, so we want to burn abilities and then go in and farm Nano. That's what I have it in my head. We want to farm Nano while burning their abilities and taking, you know, an advantage.
Nano. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna look to poke, and we're gonna look to try to farm our nano boost as fast as possible. Okay, let's watch the first fight then. The other team is running out on thing. Hello, Mr. Spoogles.
Our main healer is now here.
Alright. Okay, so we are jumping now. We have the Sombra over there.
I might need this later.
Okay. So do you remember anything about this specific map or a specific match that is good to keep in mind? Or like anything you guys had a hard time, like you felt like you had a hard time doing something?
Just general coordination. No Derpy's a bit confused playing poke with Winston.
Okay.
And yeah, finding value on Sombra is a bit hard. The McCree is very good at peeling for the supports.
Okay.
And I really feel like pressure not to take on that McCree 1v1. I feel like it's just a bad matchup.
Okay. Okay, so let's look at that first fight again. We're gonna look at a couple things. So, yes, you guys are correct in the sense that you guys do want to play for poke here. And what we're gonna do eventually is we're gonna look at this fight again and say where everyone should be and what they should have done instead. But the first thing I think we're gonna go over is how dive works in general, because you're still running a dive comp, yes?
Yep.
Yeah. So have you guys seen like the graphs of like value for like the compositions at all?
Don't think so.
Okay. So what are the three main compositions we have in the game?
Poke, brawl, and dive.
Okay, so we have poke, we have brawl, and we have dive. Okay. Assuming none of these is super broken, which one beats what? Do we know?
Brawl beats. No, dive beats poke. Poke beats brawl. Brawl beats dive.
There we
Is that
go.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go into a little bit of why this happens. Let's do the two that you're not doing right now, right? Because we're running dive into brawl, right? So let's look at why dive beats poke. Why do we think dive beats poke?
You can just jump on them. Like,
More
I usually
mobility.
farmed nano on that. Like,
Okay. Mobility. Actually, let's do something else first. Let's figure out what each comp does. Sorry, that was my bad. So, what does... Let's start with Poke. So what does Poke want to do?
Burn.
I guess.
Yeah,
no, I guess
burning
I'll
kite.
do that.
Burn time. Yes, so it does want to burn time. What else does it want to do?
Yeah, I got no idea.
Okay. So Poke basically wants to be very consistent, right? Because if we make a graph, I'm just going to put it up here. If we make a graph of what Poke wants to do, it's going to look like a straight line through the entire team fight, right? Because basically you want to have consistent pressure throughout the entire game, essentially. Okay, so we're going to move on to Brawl. So how does Brawl work?
You want to get on top of them.
Okay,
Play
so you're going to
fast
get
you
on
can.
top. Anything else?
Play fast.
Set
Okay.
together, focus fire. That is very important.
Okay, I'm going to put down Focus Fire, but we're going to go back to the fast thing. Why do we want to play fast?
Well, I guess.
Well, there's two reasons, I think. It's like, because you're playing with time. The faster your team fights as the attacker, the more team fights you get.
Mhm.
And secondly, if you go in with speed Lucio, it gives Reinhardt more advantage, because you usually have close range heroes like Zarya and Reinhardt that gets most value close, rather than Poke, which a lot of their heroes get value further away.
Okay. So we're going to talk about a little bit different things with Brawl. Because this is what they're playing right now, right? Brawl actually wants to... yes, you do want to get on top of them, and you do need Focus Fire. But instead of going fast, we're going to actually think about how we can win in terms of attrition. Do we know what that means?
Not dumb it down for me.
Okay, so basically we want to play for attrition, which is similar to Poke, but Brawl is a little bit different, because once we get on top of them, right? Or in the pathing phase, which is when we try to, if we're a Brawl comp, we want to walk to them. We want to make sure that we have a lot of our resources when we get to them, right? If you say play fast, and you say generically play fast, and you just run into them and use all your abilities at once, you're going to actually run out of fuel at the end. Which is why the ideal Brawl graph actually looks something like this. And then it drops off towards the end. Let me redo that. So it kind of goes like this. Because there's still a small spike, it ramps up slowly, and then it comes back down towards the end. And we want to actually try to maximize this area.
With Y being efficiency, X being time.
Yeah, so this is time,
Yeah.
this is value.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to talk about the one that you're playing now. So, what do we know about Dive?
Am I right in saying cycle abilities? I don't know.
Okay, yes, you're on the right path. So we want to cycle, just cycle everything, really.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've been learning to use Zara's bubble and then Winston's bubble, for example.
That's really good.
And then after that, use grenade.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's really good, because then you're able to sustain an area. But let's finish talking about Dive for a bit, and then we can go into a little bit more of the specifics. So Dives likes to cycle abilities. What else does it like to do?
Separate, pick on the people that are out of position.
So I'm just gonna put punish, right? Because that's what it does, right? Okay, and we're gonna actually focus on this point a lot today, because that's what your comp is made to do. So, the graph for Dive is actually a little bit different. It looks something like... That's wrong. Looks like that. And the reason it is like this is because in the beginning, you actually don't have a lot of direct value. But when you commit your resources, you put yourself in a position where it's really hard to uncommit. So that's what Dive ended up looking like. And what we want to do is we want to make sure we don't lose as much here, so that this can be as best as it can, or else you're gonna end up doing budget Brawl. So now that we know this, we're gonna look at your situation at hand now, right?
Do you like the Zarya Winston pick? Do you think that there's a lot of value in that at the moment?
I actually do like the Zarya Winston pick. I think that it helps teams force things that they shouldn't be able to, rather than the Zarya Diva. And at least for teams that haven't like practiced Diva a whole bunch, it gives them a bit of an entryway into dive.
Right.
Okay. So we're gonna look at their comp here, and then we're gonna look at your comp. So their comp, what is their comp?
It's a brawl.
Just traditional brawl.
Yep, it's a brawl comp. It's a brawl. And they have some unique aspects. They have the Mei, which is probably the most unique aspect, and they also have Lucio. And these are the two you probably need to pay most attention to.
Right.
And then you guys have dive. And the things that are not normal in your dive, you have basically Ashe, Sombra, and then you also have Zarya. Okay. So the thing about their brawl is that they are gonna work on the attrition thing, just like we talked about earlier. Which means as soon as you go into their team, they actually want to be able to sustain for a bit as you guys jump in. Because if they survive your initial jump, your engage, then they're gonna win out the fight, right? Because the dive curve, or the dive like spike, right? Hello,
Yeah.
Mr. Cokens. All right. We're just going over what both sides are playing right now. So feel free to jump in at any moment if you have input or questions. So we're going to think about, based on these things, right? You guys, they want to play for attrition, meaning that they want to use as least resources as they can in the beginning. And you want to make sure that you get value out of your first jump. So we're going to think about ways we can do that. Does anyone have any ideas of how we could do that?
We might take high ground,
Take high ground? Yes, that is one way to do it.
or the one behind the high ground behind them.
High
as
ground
well.
behind them? Okay. So why do these things help?
It's better vision.
Okay, so you get vision.
Take map control and you create a kill box.
There we go, map control, right? And then
Just
like you
a
said,
side
kill box.
note, I'm playing Among Us, so I'm going to jump between. Hopefully that doesn't disturb.
Okay. That is okay if you guys are okay with that.
He didn't play in this game. for
Oh,
clarity.
okay.
He's just part of the team. He couldn't play this game.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and talk about this a little bit more, right? Creating map control in the kill box, right? So when you guys actually put people, right? Have you guys heard about staging before?
Yup.
Okay, so when we stage, right? Staging high ground, going here, going to this high ground, right? It forces them to an area because they're out of options, right? You're trying to take away their options from them. Meaning that, like we talked about earlier, that dive spike can be a lot more efficient because that means they're in a place, like if you push them to back here, they're in a place where they have no options to go anywhere. Whereas if you guys just come here and blind jump them over, they have a lot of options because they have all their cooldowns and they have all the ways they can move, especially because they have Lucio, right? So we're gonna look at this first fight again. And from the staging part, we're gonna look at what we could have done differently. Wait, I'm gonna go back a little bit because Winston already did his first jump. Okay, so the Winston jumps in, has bubble, Zarya goes down, we jump out, and then we lose. Okay. So we're gonna rewind a little bit here. So if we could turn back time, what do we think we should have done instead?
I shouldn't have used my jump at the start.
Okay.
So it kind of restricted me.
I think using your jump at the start is fine. I think we should talk about where you think you should have jumped instead. Where do you think you should have jumped instead? Or what do you think you should have tried to do to the other team?
Well, I went to the left to try and poke them, but they weren't there, and they went on their other side. So, but I probably should have taken high ground or something.
Okay. So, which high ground?
Well, yeah, probably that one.
This
I
one?
wouldn't jump to the other one because the healers wouldn't see me. And
Okay. So I want you to think about how we can possibly manipulate the other team into a space that we want. Let's first pick a space then. That might make it easier. So where do we want the enemy team to end up to make it easiest to dive?
at the back of the point.
Back of the point?
Yeah.
Like right here?
Yep.
All right, sure. We can do that. So we want the team to go back there. And then you said jump up here. Okay, what does that do? What path does that cut off for them?
Underneath them.
Right under here, right? They can't push forward and they can't push through here. Up to you, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay. Let's just go through everybody that's here. Free, where do you think you should have set up?
Probably either high ground behind them or behind the Mora.
Behind the Moira?
Probably to distract them.
Okay. And you can do these things that are unique to Sombra, where like you can actually like poke in early. Like, while let's say your monkey is looking to jump top, you can actually like uncloak here and then try to just get a little bit of poke damage in to try to pull them back a little. Try to take resources from them. Okay, so these are actually pretty good because then, do you know what this space does? Or like threading that
Just
space?
They have to put like really like behind cover. There's not a lot of it.
Yes, so they have to, basically it takes away this cover from them, the one in the back of point, because they can no longer retreat to there because you have Sombra there. And also, like, it makes it so that anyone standing on point gets poked down. Okay, perfect. Let's talk about the supports now. Mercy's gonna be a little bit different, so let's talk about Anna first. So, Papa, where do you think we should be trying to set up?
Sorry, that's my bad. Where am I in this set?
You are currently in Vikings, I
behind
think.
the Winston. I didn't totally know where they were going to dive, so I set myself up around Vikings because then at least I would be in a little bit of cover, because that's how I like to path in Blizzard World, especially, because
Okay.
then I have an escape route. And then obviously the problem would be if they were to dive behind point, it would be hard to get LOS unless they was to push up. But my pathing would be Vikings first, hug that rock area and use that as like my shield. And then I would push left side if it's safe to do so into the little, like the house area on the left, to get more of a LOS on the team if the distraction was good enough
Okay.
for me to move up.
So, what you're gonna find is that when you end up here, you actually, it's actually gonna be really hard for you to see, at least for where you guys picked, because you guys picked to send the team back here, yes? And we want to be able to make sure that we can have vision of here, vision of our kill box, and we want to be able to throw our anti into it. Something else to note is that on the other team, there isn't really anyone that's going to contest you from long range. You can basically duel anyone on the other team if you put enough distance in between you. Would you agree with that? Okay. So I actually think if you went to high ground when your Winston came up to clear it, then you would be able to see both your kill box and you would also stop anyone from coming around. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think I can't think back to Tuesday very well, but I don't remember us having a plan of where exactly we were diving. So that was like a guess was Vikings. But yeah, it was probably my bad just not knowing.
And we're trying to change that,
where
right?
we're
So that
going.
we can have more of a plan, so that when we go into the next match, that we have a definitive plan, and it makes it easier for us to make decisions. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So instead of talking about Mercy's position, we're actually going to talk about Ash's position, because Ash's position is probably going to determine where Mercy's position is going to go. So Should I call you Spoogles or Deathstroke? Is this you?
Yeah, it's me. Of course.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Spoogles, where should Ash be going, you think?
Ash? Wait. High ground?
High ground? Right here?
Yeah.
I think that's pretty good. I think that's a good place to double down with the Ana. Why do you think high ground's a good place to go?
Don't know, just lots of vision, I guess.
Lots of vision. Okay, so it's gonna actually end up being similar to our Ana, where we can look down here, can also look down here. What I would also recommend is that when you get to talk to your off-tank player when he comes back, is that if you come around this side with your Zarya, you can actually set up here with your Ashe on top of that balcony, because that gives you another sight line into here. And that helps you keep this side of the point, the left side of the point from your perspective, safe from anyone from pushing you, because no one's gonna flank you. If anything, it's just gonna be the McCree shooting at you. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And a lot of the times with this comp, you are gonna stay with the Ashe until maybe you throw anti-nade, or if Sombra's in range and she needs help. But yeah, a lot of the time it is gonna be with the Ashe here. Okay. We're gonna skip past this fight. Okay, we're gonna watch the second fight.
I feel like dancing.
So in this fight, I want you to try to look at... Hey, actually, we do jump top here. That's really good. So we jump top here. Let's see what that actually does. So you see when you jump top here, that they no longer feel like that they can hold this. So they actually move back here. Do we see that?
Yeah, why would they do that though? Because I'm monkey. I can't taser them that far.
Because now you're creating a pathway for your team to come up here. If the Ashe or the Zarya tried to walk upstairs or come up here and coach gun up, it would be a lot easier for them to contest, because then you can poke down with McCree, right? But with here, you are essentially threatening that I'm going to jump here if you do not move now, right? Because they don't know where the rest of your team is right now, right? If they're ready to go in, they actually have to respect it. And be ready to catch you, because that's their win condition.
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead, put everyone on top. Hey, look, it's kind of like what we talked about. I feel like something for you, Derpy, up here. So, high ground, actually, do you know the cover that you have on high ground? I know there's no walls here, but do you know the cover that you have?
If you back up.
Yeah, if you back up.
Roof.
There we go. Yeah. So just to keep that in mind, and it helps us sustain a lot more, especially when we're trying to cleave into the enemy team from high ground. Okay. So I see what we tried to do here.
Yeah, I went to high ground and then realized I'm not gonna really do much from high ground. So it's. But then I don't know.
But you saw what it did to the enemy team.
Yeah, I hesitated. That's why.
Okay, but so after you guys have to engage at some point, right? Dive. You kind of need to engage at some point. So when you do sit up here, you want to have an end goal, right? Which is, if they go here, we jump them. If they go here, we jump them, right?
Yeah.
Or if they move in a certain way or someone gets picked off, we jump them, right?
Yeah.
So when we do go high ground, when it's like, yay, we did it. We did step 1. Now we need to do step 2, right? We need to execute. And that comes with a lot of other people helping stage. Free, I'm going to move on to you a little bit here. So in this fight with Sombra, what were you trying to do? Or what do you remember you trying to do?
Just trying to find damage value and hack priority targets.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was pretty scared of just like their Lucio and McCree. They
Okay.
really like to look at for me.
Okay.
That makes us shooting in circles.
Sorry, what was that? You're quite soft. I think I need to turn you up.
Oh yeah, you talking about their mace shooting in circles?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're looking for me.
And that comes down to Sombra pathing, which is, it's easier to check for Sombra than it is for Sombra to path around, especially when the other team does it quite well. Yes? So after your Winston comes up here, right? Where do we want to go, like we talked about before?
Behind them usually. Probably
Somewhere
high
around
ground.
here, right?
Yeah.
So when our Winston jumps top, it creates this lane open for us, right? And guess what? If anyone gets left behind over here, then you jump them. Right? And you're there ready to go. But use the paths that your team makes for you to get to high ground. Because if your team comes this way, then you can come around the back here and get behind them that way. Don't feel like you have to do it all on your own.
So by me going on that high ground, it lets my Sombra go on the right side because the other team doesn't want to go on that right side.
Yep,
And it
because
kinda
if
clears the
they...
path.
Yep, because if they move this way, because they feel threatened from you being here, which they should, then your Sombra gets to move this way. If they don't feel threatened, and Sombra scouts someone here by going this side, then you can feel free to jump over the roof with the bubble and be able to punish that person.
Okay. And that would come down to Sombra callouts, wouldn't it?
Yes.
If someone's left alone.
We are having a really hard time getting behind them, though. Okay. So it seems like the main focus is going to be us trying to see if we can... see how we can manipulate the enemy team. And where, at least from the support side, where we want to set up as supports to be able to punish that. Right? Okay. So let's look at the next fight. Man, Sombra's gone on 2x speed sounds so funny. Okay, so we're gonna look at this fight. Okay, so we put the Ashe on high ground, we threw a Bob on point. We jump in with Monkey Bubble and our Bubble.
Still working on it.
It's okay. Okay, because you said we're working on it, we're gonna look at that a little bit different. What would you have done different on this first jump?
Do something.
Well, I'm probably thinking we should engage sooner, but
Yeah.
I think engaging here is okay, because look, you shoved them all the way to the back of the point. But who's
So
free
when
right
you
now?
pull down,
good question.
Might have. Might not have jump or something.
Do you have jump?
Possibly.
Yeah, jump.
I did have jump. Alright, I'm just waiting there.
Okay. So who's free right now on their team?
There's that Kree on the back left. He's so
There we
low.
go, right? And that was a combination of throwing Bob on this side to zone that way, and us coming around this way to zone this lane, right? Because anyone that's caught on the outsides gets demolished, right? Because the Ashe shoots down this lane, the Ashe shoots down the top lane, and you guys threaten this way. So that's what I wanted to talk about punishing, right? Is that when you force them to move this much, you have to be able to punish if they do make a mistake. Which is why I think this jump is okay, because if you saw the McCree going around this way, and then the Lucio coming back, and you actually split off two people, I think that's pretty good. I think that what we could have done a little bit differently is not used a lot of our 3 of our sustain resources at once, but that's something to work on.
If I get nanoed and I jump in, would I still need my bubble?
No.
I actually don't really
As
like.
in, like the Zarya bubble, I mean. Like,
No.
so you would put it on.
You have time. So
Yeah.
the nano should have come a little bit later, and then followed by the Zarya bubble once you've taken a little bit of damage potentially, because you've got the bio and nano resistance on you, right?
Yeah.
And then you can use your bubble afterwards. So you.
I actually
It's probably
like.
just a miscommunication. But-
I actually think you're on the right track, like 95% there. And what I would do is I would jump in with the Zarya bubble, especially if we know the Kree is close, right? You saw the Kree rotate around the back, because we don't want to get flashbanged in. And as we stay here, then we can use the nano. Or we can use the monkey bubble first and then the nano. Either way.
Wouldn't you want to use the extra damage from the nano though on impact?
Because we already have the primal, there's no real reason we need to farm it. And even if we didn't have the primal, I think it's okay to have the just the cleave in. The nano boost should be used for like staying power as like a secondary better Zarya bubble, because the longer that they stay here in your kill zone, like we talked about earlier, the better it is going to be for the Ashe as well as your Sombra when she eventually comes. Speaking of which, where are we at? Okay, we're coming around. Okay, so we're almost there, right? Because the longer that they stay there, the better it is for you guys. So the longer Monkey stays alive and holds down the fort, the better it is for us. And we already cut off the Reinhardt, right? So there's not much else we need to do. So we might not even needed the nano here. But the nano is good to use.
Yes.
Apagando las... Огонь по готовности! Helden sterben nicht.
Did we use too many ults?
Sorry?
Did we use too many ults? What do you reckon?
Hmm.
Because I feel like out of a lot of ults there, we didn't get a lot of value.
Okay.
Probably didn't need the Valk at the end, but using 3 ult to fight is fine normally.
How about you tell me? What ults do you think you could have not used? So we used Bob in the beginning. Do we think that's necessary or useful?
Yeah, definitely.
I
Okay.
think it was pretty got a lot of value.
Alright. So that's good. Do you think we
I
needed...
think my primal was needed,
Okay.
but
Okay. Let's go one at a time here. The nano boost. Do we felt like that was impactful?
yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
I would agree that the nano is pretty impactful. I think it could have come in a little bit later, but overall, good placement.
I wanted it to, but Derpy was like, no, right now. I want it right now. But usually I like to nano a monkey as like when he's in after he's dive, taking a little bit of damage. But you know, Derpy's call, so I was like, okay.
And the reason why we actually want to do that, I can actually draw that out a little bit, is because you guys know normally how calls go. Like if someone says this person is low, right? Then normally they get focused, right? And you know how frustrating it is when the Winston jumps in, goes down like half health, right? Half his health is gone, and then you say focus Winston because you think that like he's not gonna he doesn't have primal and he's not gonna die, and then nano boost comes in. And then now your whole plan is ruined, right? Because you put all your resources into the Winston already.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so it's like better for them to use their resources before the nano because the damage gets neglected by the nano anyway afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about primal and then we can talk about EMP. So do we think primal got impact here?
I don't think so.
Okay. How come? Why don't we think so?
Well, I don't know though, because I did like push them all back and distracted them, but like I don't know if I really got any value from doing that.
So
Because we're already up 1. They've
You're
got
up
their
1.
Kree in there, right?
And you have
there,
res.
We've only... Yeah, true. Maybe it was good just so we could get the res off first and then delay the fight a little bit.
Does anyone else have any opinions on the monkey ult?
I think the primal was fine.
Okay.
It could have come a little bit later after you're taking a bit more damage, maybe. Like you could have, because you pulled it like straight away when you got ward off it pretty much. Like you could have jumped further in and then primaled and pushed them towards your team.
To try to win out the fight then and there?
Yeah, to try and isolate the targets a bit better, because then you wouldn't have needed EMP.
Okay.
Because they were coming up on grab and B, which they use grab, so.
I would agree with that. Yeah, so then you can actually jump in deeper and then you can try to hit them back. But I think the primal is pretty okay here in general. I don't think you needed it to win because you already had the res coming back, as well as this Lucio's basically dead here anyway. But if you are in this situation again, I would say using primal is okay. Okay, now let's talk about the EMP. What do we think about the EMP?
God tier trash.
Why is that?
Because I got like 2 people under EMP is probably the most important ult that we have, and it didn't even get the Zarya.
Okay.
But even if you can EMP 2 people and secure those kills, it's worth.
I think it was more like if we would have saved it, we could have won the next fight with Grav EMP and just like destroyed.
I mean, it was like in my head, it's like, alright, we're winning this fight or we're losing the game, right? Because we already invested 3 ults. So I was like, alright, I'm just gonna use EMP to really turn like the 75% win rate of the fight to like 90%, so they can't retake. But looking back at it, you know, I just didn't want to risk not using it and losing the fight. But it would have been really valuable to have it next fight for sure.
So, here's something you need to distinguish. When you're in the game, it's different from you're looking at it after the game, right? Because right now we're looking at it and say, you know, this EMP didn't do a whole lot, right? But if in the game, in the future, if you feel like, man, I feel like in my bones, there's a possibility we're gonna lose this fight because of this, and this reason, right? In this case, it might be the grab. In this case, it might be the beat, right? Then you're gonna go ahead and EMP because you, in that moment, think it's winnable. And that's something we can work on in the future, right? Because if we see that as a trend where we EMP when we think things are gonna happen, when we don't, when it's not actually gonna happen, then we can talk about that and work on that, right? But for now in the game, you go in the game and you don't try to fix things mid-game. If you feel like you need to EMP, then just EMP, okay?
I think I might have just found more value if I just went to a health pack and found value normally rather than using ult, because I'm probably think I die here anyway.
Okay. So something about Sombra dive that I think is important to know is that you'll see a lot of teams, especially against this brawl comp that they're running, you'll have like multiple fights. So you have like your normal ult fight, and then you'll have your EMP fight, and then you'll have your ult fight again, because you just EMP'd and built out your ults back. And then you EMP again. And what this is going to do is it's going to create a cycle where EMP doesn't allow them to use their ultimates, but when they do have ultimates, you have 5 ultimates, and they have like 3. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what Sombra is really good at giving you guys.
So you think I should use it when I get it rather than saving it?
I would say that you can use it in fights where you think you guys are at an ult disadvantage, or if you're gonna use it to counter something like beat. Using it against beat is really helpful, but using it when they have already an ult disadvantage as an engage is also really good. Okay. So we're gonna push up a little bit to second. Good, we push up here. Who's on cart? Oh, we have the Sombra on cart. Actually holding this for quite a long time, which is good. Oh no. Oh no, are we stuck? I think we got stuck. Okay.
Oh yeah, I got stuck.
Alright. So we're gonna actually talk about a little bit about second point, payload, and hybrid, because they're both the same. So this second point, what are things that we know about second point, or that we feel about second point? How do we feel about second point on payload and hybrid maps?
On this one specifically, or?
It's normally the hardest
In
to
general,
defend.
but this one specifically can work as well.
So you about pushing cart. I feel like taking high ground, getting the position advantage before the fight is important.
Okay, so
But
take
also
position.
you gotta push card or else it's useless anyway because you'll just use ults and your card will be nowhere near where you want it to be.
Okay. Is there anything else we know from ranked or know from our experience about second point?
Depending on how, like, where you cap first point, it depends on, like, their spawns.
Okay, so spawns are a big thing. Okay.
So some of them might already have positioning from the old spawn, so they might be a little bit closer, whereas the others had time to a little bit longer to
Okay.
come.
A couple things I want to add here is that normally teams get they either get stuck, or they roll. Meaning that they either push it all the way through in one go, super easy, or they get stuck forever, either here or here. Do we agree with that?
Oh yeah.
All right. And the reason is for a couple things. The reasons are, like you said, very positioning based, right? Especially this point, because whatever team is set up on this high ground has a significant advantage, which is why I was really happy when you guys actually took this high ground really early, right? And you guys did try to fight it as they walked in, which is good. And we could talk about the execution of that after. But I do want to make sure that we get around this. So, the other thing we need to keep in mind with Streets phase in general is where to fight. So how many fights do we think we can get out of Streets?
I mean,
2.
best case scenario would be 2, yeah.
You think 2? I think that's
That'd be
correct.
Best case scenario, yeah.
Okay. So I would actually say you can get 2 to 3 if you're on the defense. 3 is kind of really hard and you have to play like super perfectly. But sometimes if you contest it before it turns the corner here, then normally it gets to around here. As long as you contest it right as you engage, you can get one right at the end. But normally we can get 2. And where are the 2 places we normally fight?
Under
Rocks.
yeah, that rocky area under turret.
Under
that
turret?
hold that corner.
Like right
Sorry,
here?
no,
Well,
no,
I feel like
no,
a good team would
back-
hold the
a little
choke.
bit.
I feel
Like
like
right
if
there.
you're defending, you want to prioritize holding there, and
Okay.
then another frequent place is probably rocks, and probably the last fight is probably underneath bridge.
Okay. I
Yeah.
think these are good places to hold. So, I think like you said,
Depends what comp you're running, right? If you're running brawl, you definitely want to hold choke.
Yeah, right up there.
Yeah, but if you're probably holding a poke, like traditional poke with Sigurd or Risk, I know you would never play that anymore, but you'd probably hold rocks instead.
but you still need to contest when it comes around here. And that's because
yeah.
if the cart turns this corner and you lose the fight, it gets to the end for free. And you get one
Yeah.
fight out of it.
Okay.
Okay. So, against the other team, right? Now that we know what the defense wants to do and what you want to do, you actually want to get this cart around this corner without fighting. Because you guys have positional advantage because they went back and invested resources into the recontest. Because then you get one fight out of second and you absolutely roll them. So, I did like how we held high here, which is step 1. And then step 2, which we tried to do, was our engage, where we grabbed here, but we weren't really ready for it. And I'm pretty sure the reason is it goes back to staging. So, remember, we aren't a brawl comp, right? We don't want to necessarily fight like on when they're coming up here face to face. We want to try to punish, yes? And the way we do that is, yes, we can grab, but we also need to make sure we set up for anti, which means Anna can, actually, I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Where do we want to grab and where do we want to anti? What do we think?
Like right now?
Let's go back. We can go back. At the point at which we grabbed. Do we still have grav? Yes. Okay. So perfect. So right now we have 2 tanks here. We have our supports here. We have a Sombra on cart, which is your guys' choice if you guys want to do that. And Ash is going to be right here. So Ideally, how do we want to set up to make sure that they don't touch the cart and we get a free fight? What do we think?
It really
I'd
comes
say
down to death, I think. Ash and Mercy. Where are they going to find the most value?
I think that's definitely one thing. So we can definitely place them first. So where do you want to place our Ash and in turn our Mercy?
Probably on Siege Tank.
What's up?
You see, like Ash will accidentally fall down the bottom next fight. If she falls down there.
Oh, she falls down accidentally.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not gonna really worry about accidents because we're trying to figure out what you guys could have done ideally, right? Because that's what we're gonna strive to
be a
do.
good idea?
I think holding tank would be a good idea.
It's
What do you guys
probably
think?
the best idea because then you can at least fall back and help them. Because if they're pushed any further up, then you've got nowhere to fall back. And you're stuck. So.
Spookles, do you think this is a place where you can stay safe as Mercy?
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, we're gonna push Ash and Mercy up here. So what does that mean for everyone else?
I'll probably put like Winston at stairs and maybe Zarya.
These
Like
stairs?
a bit before, yeah, like at ramp.
Why do you want him to go on the stairs?
Just holding the most space as possible, and he can get out of a jump, so he can hold a bit further.
Okay, so let's try to go over something with Monkey. So Monkey has this big circle around him, and it's its dive range, right? And with Monkey, you don't actually need to stand next to someone to threaten them, right? Because if you're standing, like where you are right now, you're threatening the other team because you're trying to dive them, right? Because that's what your comp does. So, when we hold this close, we're actually giving up a lot of our thing to dive them because we're playing into their win condition. And what was their win condition again? As Brawl?
Just to get on top of someone usually.
Get on top of you, right? And when you do that for them, it makes it much easier for them. So we want to try to make it hard on them as possible. So where do we think we want Monkey to go?
Take the high ground. I think where I am right now is alright. So.
Yeah, I actually think where you are okay is pretty good. And what does that mean for you? What's the plan here? Because let's just assume they go stairs. What do you want to do?
We'll just tickle them.
So you want to poke if they go upstairs? Is there anything else you want to do? How about your jump? Your jump onto them.
I don't know if I'd jump on them. Because I might get melted a little bit.
Okay.
And not be able to get out.
Okay. I'm going to come back to that. But we're going to first, as a team, we're going to try to place our Zarya. Because they're not here today. Where do we want our Zarya to go?
Not there.
Not here?
I think maybe a bit further back, like where the Mercy is right now.
Mercy is? Okay.
Yeah.
I actually think that's a pretty good area. And we want to set up for Grav, and... Okay, so
just
if...
to stop them, just to make space for the Ash and Mercy and Ana, but it's also enough to run away.
I would
Lot of
actually agree with
options.
that. Okay, so where do we want to grab then? If our Zarya's standing here.
I think that grabbing the stairs was alright.
Grabbing the stairs? Okay. We're gonna actually come back to that one too, and because we need to actually place our Ana. So Papa, if we want to grab somewhere in this general vicinity, where do we want to play, you think?
Well, I would want to play just an off-angle shield so that I can get an anti-nade.
Okay.
So if we did do it on the stairs, then that would be 1, right in front of my face, and 2, I wouldn't be able to move around anywhere in time to anti. Perhaps if I path back to the turret, maybe then. I was thinking maybe a different bot than for the grab, just for the anti-nade itself, because that would be very, very close if we were to grab immediately on the stairs. I don't know, I like my positioning, high ground. Maybe I could be a little further back.
If
Maybe
you
I put
could
myself
place
a
the
little
grav,
too far forward.
if you could place the grav for your anti-nade, where would you want the grav, and then where would you want to position in turn?
Oh, that's a good question. It would be up to I would be maybe a little bit further along to my the left, nearer to Monkey, around playing around
Okay,
that sign.
so around here?
Yeah, because then if we were to grab like underneath it, and then the team's coming from one side, then I could sort of chuck a nade from the other side, anti-ing them, because the Rhine can only protect from one angle at a time.
Okay.
So like almost stairs, but maybe slightly to the left. Almost, I guess, kind of like underneath that sign area. I don't know. That maybe I'm wrong, but that would be where I would
Okay.
like it.
I actually like this positioning here. And the reason why is I actually wouldn't like the grav over here. I would want it a little bit closer. I would actually want it over here. Because as soon as your Zarya calls, I'm going to grav, from this position, your Winston can jump here, split the team off. Then you have the decision of either grabbing the squishies or grabbing the tanks. And then you as the Ana, starting over here, can either anti the squishies or rotate over here and anti the tanks. And then your Ashe can be pummeling and damage the entire time. And that's how you're going to win this fight, right? But if we grab too close, like we did, let's actually play a little bit for the grab, then we can see that it's going to be really hard to actually get our damage into this grab because of the shield, yes? Even though we do get a lot of people into this grab. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Alright. And it also plays into our thing of getting the cart around the corner. Oh, I dropped my pen. Then, because the longer it takes for them to get up here, or go through main, or go through the right side, the better it is for you. Because as soon as it gets around this corner, you put yourself in a one-fight scenario. Which means if you win that fight, you get it all the way to the end. Which means you're playing for time. Alright. And our monkey gets stuck here, which is really unfortunate.
Even it could get stuck.
I didn't know you could get stuck there either. I'm never gonna jump there ever again. Okay. So, we're coming up on the hour here. Free, you said you wanted to go for around 2 hours?
If you're comfortable with that.
I'm pretty comfortable with that. I'm just a little bit worried if you guys are going to get burnt out if we go for even 30 more minutes. But so in that line, do you guys want to work on anything in specific, or do you want me to keep on going on this map? Or
Maybe Sombra pathing for me.
Sombra pathing? Okay.
Yeah, to see if I could get where I should be in each team fight and how you think I could get more value. Because I'm trying to find value as Sombra as much as I can, and I think if I can, like, if they can enable me as Sombra, and I can find a lot of value as Sombra, I think that would be a good secret to this comp. But yeah, just finding value, like getting pathing, how to compete with that McCree, because he is, like, I'm just afraid of even like contesting him at all, because I get like dinged and I have to go back to medpat, and then that's another 10 seconds I get no value. So I'm just trying to uptime my value of Sombra, and I can't seem to like make the right decision.
Okay. Let's talk about that a little bit here. And as we walk into the next fight, actually, first, does anyone else have anything specific they want to go over, so we can go over it after?
Not on this map, but I would like to go on like how to play on Ilios.
Oh yeah.
On like Ruins or whatever.
Okay. Do you guys have an Ilios one?
Yeah, we have a.
Yep.
Okay. So how about this? For the plan today, we're gonna go ahead and look at free Sombra for a bit, and then we are gonna go ahead.
I play Sombra and Ilios.
Okay. Do you want to
Right,
just
so
switch over to Ilios then now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Let me go ahead and grab that one. Q 5 4 7. Okay. So the couple things I want you to look at for Sombra here is I want you to look at oh, I forgot. Haha. Is how we kind of get around and your timings. We're gonna focus on those two things. Like we talked about earlier, using your team's openings to get you in position. And then the second thing is the timings. This one's a little bit different because they are running a dive with a Widow and a Genji. Okay. Alright. So, I'm going to put you on the spot here. And we're going to look at your Sombra. Around here.
I hacked Winston.
And I think that's good because then he can't jump out. Punish the
Okay.
exit, which is really good.
Yeah,
Then
I
we
think
peter
everyone's
out.
get a little bit stranded.
Okay. So let's focus on the Sombra and then we're going to look at the fight in general. So what do you think you should have done on Sombra? Or do you think you did what you should have done?
Well, I'm happy with the Winston hack, but I want to get a bit more farming of EMP, get a little bit more damage in,
Okay.
and probably hack mid pack, so we can you know, make more space in theory, be able to
Okay.
move up and take mid pack a lot more.
I'm
But
act-
they had a Lucio, so they took space very quickly. Our plan this map was to fight around mid pack so I could hack it, so we could get value of that. But yeah, they had a Lucian, they just got there so quick, so I beat Monkey there almost, and I hacked him and we jumped on him, but he didn't die.
Okay. Here's a team thing first, so that and it's going to transition into the next Sombra thing. Do we normally TP out of spawn?
No.
Okay. Is that just a comfort thing? Or is
We have
Makes up for
tried
getting
some
to.
maps, but yeah, we're just trying to focus on other things at this time. So yeah, it's a bit of a comfort thing,
Okay.
but yeah, we are doing it on some maps.
Okay. So when you guys do get the TP thing down, and even without it, you can still do it. It's going to be a little bit harder because they have a Lucio and you don't. But in the beginning, you are actually the scout. So you're trying to figure out what they have.
Okay.
So that you know how to play against it as a team. That's the first thing. Second thing is, like you said, you want to be able to get onto the left side as fast as you can. And they beat you there, which is really unfortunate. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna stay on this point for a little bit longer. So any objective, any plan that requires you to get to a place first, you need to try to make sure that you have means to get there. And whether that is TP or whether that is speed, you need means to get there because they used both. And you see how much like faster they get there than you get there, right?
They just have so much more space than us initially.
Which is really important, which is why you see a lot of the teams TP out. But that's just for you guys. So, assuming this plan doesn't work out, what should we try to do here, you think, with the Sombra?
Well, for
Maybe-
me, I usually just start feeding and then wait for Arno to get nano, and we play off that.
Okay.
But that hasn't worked because we keep getting. It takes too long.
Maybe I should go behind them a bit more instead of in front of them.
Behind them? Behind them where? Let's be exact.
Probably to the far left.
Far
A bit
left?
more cover. Yeah, right there where the cursor is.
Like you're here?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's going to be a little bit hard to get to, but if you could get there, that'd be really good. Why is that a good place to be?
Because maybe they would use some of their abilities on me behind, like nade or sleep, and that'd be really good for our monkey. He wouldn't have to worry so much about blocking abilities. But also, I'm conflicted between, you know, distracting them and actually getting proper value. You know, I mean that is value, but I mean like EMP and damage.
Okay. So, I actually really like this, and it's everything like you said, where with the abilities and everything else. What else it'll do is a lot of the time it'll actually create a scenario where their monkey can't jump in, right? And we're gonna use that. We're gonna time that, right? Because if you show up here now, let's say you could teleport there and show up there now, probably not super great. Their monkey's not looking to jump in right now, right? But you can interrupt their engage by harassing their supports. And you've seen it in ranked before, right? Where like you like count down your jump, and then someone shows up in your supports, and your supports yell at you for PO. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And we can make that happen to the other team because when their monkey wants to jump, we can try to uncloak and harass their backline and make them use resources on you instead of their monkey. which comes into timing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think hacking the monkey is pretty okay here. I think if you waited for everyone to be in position, it would have been a little bit better. But other than that, it seems pretty okay.
Maybe we would have won if just unfortunately I would have lost the duel, so
Mhm.
maybe we would have won if we took that duel a bit better.
I don't think you can always count on your Widow to win the duel per se.
No, I agree, but I think we're just initially at the disadvantage because we lost someone so quick.
So here's the fun thing. Taking the Widow duel is okay at certain points. And the reason is because when you jump in, when you have your engage, their Widow wants to shoot at people inside of your team. And if you look at their Widow at the same time as things are happening in the team fight, then you actually get more value. Because even if both Widows miss and you're the one on the engage, you inherently get more value. And you can tell this to Death Drone when he gets back. Because then you don't need to necessarily win that Widow duel. If you do, it's great. And if you pick them now, it's great. But it's really risky because you can see after you have the Widow go down here, the Widow gets to put free reign and you just started your engage, which means you start your engage with one man down. And fighting 6v6 is better than fighting 5v6. And that's a big risk because then if you go down, you're putting your team at a very big disadvantage on their engage and no one even got to play the game yet. Is there anything you guys want to specifically look at on Ruins?
Probably pathing, yeah, and
Pathing?
like just I said, Sombra, getting good value on Sombra.
Okay.
Even you just like harassing the supports, that's gonna at least get somewhat a little bit of attention from the Widow. So it'll make it easier for Drone to win the fight.
Yep. And that comes down to a timing thing, right? Like if someone says I'm gonna take the Widow duel now or I'm peeking now, then you can show up and try to do things.
It feels weird, right? Because I feel like, okay, I could go Hanzo, you know, the almighty flex, where I could just like get a lot of damage on the tank and probably get a pick, but but I go Sombra instead and don't get a pick and distract their backline. I just feel like, I know Sombra is a really good pick in Overwatch, but I just can't, it just doesn't feel like it.
Okay.
And I'm trying hard, like even in ranked games, to find value of Sombra, because if I do get value of Sombra, I can't find the argument to still go her because I could still do more damage as Hanzo. Or I don't know, maybe it's just like my aim and I'm not like OWL tracking and I can't get a pick on that Ana and I need to work on that. But
you don't even need to get the pick, that's the thing.
Yeah,
your job is to create pressure essentially.
Yeah,
and like
but
your
that's the
presence
argument I'm
alone
making. It's
is-
like you could make that pressure as any other DPS. So I mean, I want to know like how to get that like definite value you would get on Sombra, because otherwise if I don't, there's no argument to go on Sombra in the first place. Like I could be Tracer, right? I feel the argument I'm trying to make is I could go Tracer, go in their backline, distract the support, and do more damage. Right, so what's the difference between Go, Sombra, and Tracer? What value is Sombra getting that Tracer isn't, you know?
Okay.
So you can make people on
So-
like the being.
Because I know like 9 times out of 10 at the moment with the skill I have, I'm much better on Tracer and I'm getting much more value on Tracer doing damage. And I get Pulse Bomb very quickly, and 1 Pulse Bomb each team fight is 1 pick, and that's really good. And I know I could go Tracer here, but I want to stick to Sombra because I know Sombra's a good pick as well, and I want to practice her. So what value am I getting at Sombra? Yeah, no, I'm going rambling, but you get what I'm going.
Yep. So you talked about Hanzo, right? Would you rather use Tracer as an example? We can use Tracer as an example.
Well, Tracer's a bit more similar. How she distracts and it goes in the backline a lot more.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay, so we'll use Sombra and Tracer because they're more similar, like you said.
I get much more damage value as Tracer.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about pressure from both, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we talked about Tracer, which is damage, and then it's pulse. Yes? And that's your big two, right? With Sombra gets a lot more value with understanding how the fight is going to turn out and what the other team wants to do. I'm gonna give you what the other team wants to do, and you're gonna tell me how you're gonna counter it as Sombra, okay? Do you think we could try that?
But you said Tracer gets value by knowing what the team's going to do.
No. Sombra gets a lot more
okay.
value with understanding how their team is going to play and what their team wants to do, right? So their team has 2 dive tanks, and they have an Ana for burst heal. They also have a Genji and Widow to be able to clean things up, yes? So when they jump in with their comp, right? When they jump in, not this specific fight, what do we think their Winston is looking for? Who's gonna help the Winston here the most?
I'd say the Ana.
The Ana?
Ana, even Winston would be playing right mid pack to find a lot of space. I think the Widow would basically be playing by herself. And I think the Genji and Lucio might be playing a lot together as well, trying to find that that blade value.
Okay.
That ult value.
And in this scenario, when the monkey jumps in, he's actually looking for something called a burst heal from the Nano. And you talk about this in Brawl a lot, but when their Winston jumps in and takes a big chunk of his health with all your abilities coming in and all your focus fire, this Ana needs to have nade ready.
Yep.
And needs to have sleep ready if possible, right? If you hack her when the Winston jumps in, that's huge, right? And you didn't do any damage. You just held down the right click on the Ana, and their Winston dies because of it, right?
Sure. Okay.
So we're gonna try to think of another example. I'm not trying to give you one.
If I was Tracer, for example, I feel like I could make her use that nade defensively anyway.
But
she wouldn't be hacked. It would be on 11 or 12 second cooldown rather than the 6 hack second cooldown. So that's what I'm talking about. Is I'm in my head. I have trouble finding like what's the value of this character.
Okay, so Sombra also has. I would agree with you in saying that you could do the exact same thing as Tracer, and you should do the exact same thing as Tracer. I think a lot of things that we talk about with Sombra you can apply to Tracer, except you bait out the cooldowns instead of just hacking them, right? But as people get better, they're gonna have their ability discipline is gonna go up as well, right?
Yeah, of course.
So which is something we don't really want to be able to count on.
You never want to use nade defensively if you can help it.
Yeah. And that's why Sombra is really good, because she literally cannot press the button when you hack her. But I'm not saying that you can't do it as Tracer. I'm saying you definitely can.
Because it's just more reliable. Yeah.
Yes. And I think Sombra also, she gives a lot to the ult fight. Her ultimate solo wins team fights, because it puts you, if the other team has 6 ults, and you have 0, or sorry, you have EMP, you are now even, right?
Yep.
And that's huge, because if you have one other ultimate, you're no longer even. So if you have 2 ultimates, so there's 6, and you EMP 6 people, you win that fight, as long as you get value of that next ultimate that you're in. And that's the thing that Sombra gives a lot more than Tracer.
Sure, yeah.
But going back to the argument about like trying to figure out if the like putting on pressure at the specific time, yes, you can do that as Tracer, but you can do more as Sombra, but it's harder on Sombra, which is like you said, right?
Yeah.
And it's a lot more nuanced on Sombra.
I also feel like Tracer can just outright kill Ana, and that is probably the best case scenario, right? But with Sombra, I'm having much more trouble like just taking duels with supports, for example. Like she just does outright less damage up close. Is easier to hit, and I feel like when I E out, I forgot what her ability is called.
Translocate.
Like translocate, I'm like 5 to 10 seconds out of the team fight, which is a big deal, especially in dive, right? So
let's address a couple things here. Let's address the translocate thing because it's easier. Translocator placement is a very big thing with Sombra, because yes, if you let's say you throw your translocator and spawn every single time, it's gonna take a really long time to get back. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, of course.
So, and we also don't want to throw it. We also don't want to throw it like inside of their team, because then you're just gonna. There's no point in translocating in the first place, right? And so we need somewhere in between, right? We need somewhere in the middle, right? But we want it as close to their team as possible, because like you said, it's going to be hard to get back to the fight, yes?
Mhm.
The other thing I saw you do a lot is you don't need to throw it on health packs because you have supports. Wrong side. You have supports, right?
Mhm.
And they could heal you too. And it actually gives them ult charge, so they're pretty happy about that too.
Yep.
So, knowing that, in this next fight, after I go through with you guys about how this fight goes, we're going to look at where you want to put Translocator and who you want to harass so that we can win the next fight, okay? We can think about that
Sure.
while we look at the rest of the team here.
So priority targets would probably be Monkey and Ana.
In some scenarios, but in the next team fight, I think it's going to be a little bit different. But we're going to try to look at
Okay.
your team here because you guys wanted to figure out ruins. Okay, so we take top here as Winston. We take top here as Widow. Send Sombra top for scout. You see people, we jump, and we start fight. So, I think this is less of a ruins thing and more of like a how we executed thing. But do you remember what we talked about on Blizzard World with staging?
Sure.
Yep.
Do you guys? So what do we want to be able to do here?
Well, Ana has no line of sight at all.
Okay, Ana has no line of sight. Oh.
Mhm.
What else did we talk about? We talked about influencing their movement, right?
Yep.
Yep. And so, let's on ruins, right? If you guys struggle with ruins, where do we want them to go?
Probably to Meg Pack or Point.
To
Well,
here?
there's only really
To point?
there's only got two options really.
Yep.
If we can hack the Mega, we can push them over to Mega, and then they can't. That would be
That's a
pretty good, I
plan. I actually like that plan a lot.
We want to put them in a spot where during his free will, like so much to shoot, so we can either force him to point or to the Mega because then he is good line of sight.
Okay, that's a good point. We want Death Drone to be able to see the team and their Widow not to see as much. Okay, is there anything else we need to look at? I think the last thing we can look at is trying to figure out where we need to go to be able to push them to these places. So let's try to look at that now. And then at the end, Anna's going to tell me where she went, and then we're going to do free Sombra thing. So, Derpy, where do we want to go for the, to try to push them to either Mega or Point? Well, first let's choose. Do we want to send them to Mega or to Point?
What would be easier for a Widow? Probably Mega, because it's elevated, or... Cause
Mega.
I guess they're on high ground.
I mean, Point, what can happen is she can come up here and look this way. And guess what? If you're standing over here, or in this general area, their Widow has a hard time seeing you in general. And it kind of has the same thing over here because you're going to be standing in the same general area.
So we want to go Point, or...
It's up to you guys. What do you guys want to do?
I think it depends. If we can get that hack on the Mega, I think it would be really good. Because it's kind of tight area over there.
Okay.
Because they're backed up against the ocean.
Okay, let's go ahead and do Mega then, because then we get funny boops with the Winston sometimes too. Alright. So, we want to send them to Mega. So, and you saw they were up there. Actually, let's go back a little bit and see how they set up. Because I believe they put 3 up top and then 4 on the bottom. Yep. So this is how they're set up, right? When we need to push out the Winston and the D.Va mainly, because the Genji can't stay here by himself, and neither can the Lucio. So, where are we going to go to push them back?
Right side.
Right side?
I don't know. Push them on the left side of the map. It's
Okay.
kind of strange because they're running dive. It's a little bit harder than a brawl.
Okay. So, and we can talk about that a little bit. I think actually going up here is fine, as long as we do not use bubble. Because if we use bubble, that means we're hard committing to this area. And if we want to hard commit to that area, I think that's fine. But that makes it, like you said, harder for our Ana to see, harder for our Sombra to get up here without translocate, and it also makes it harder for Widow to see things, like we said earlier, right? So I think as long as we jump up here, as long as we don't use bubble and try to force them back, then it's okay. In terms of the counter dive, you just need to make sure that you have resources, meaning that the D.Va needs to make sure she's in between, or not the D.Va. The Zarya needs to make sure she's in between, so that she can either help the back or help you and your jump.
Okay.
Okay, so you're gonna come up here. Okay, and then who else is in the call right now? Okay. Spoogles, where do you think the widows should go if we're gonna send them over here?
Widow.
Because you're gonna be with the Widowmaker and going in between both your Widow and your Sombra, and possibly your tanks. So you're gonna be very much so in between. Where would you want your Widow to be so that she can both see the things that are happening as well as give outs for you?
Not really sure. Maybe around there. Yeah.
Right here?
Yeah.
I think that's a good spot. Another good spot would be up here.
Oh yeah.
I think either of those is okay. Up here's a little bit more out in the open, but you have the drop T here, which is okay. Okay, and then we're gonna do freeze Sombra. So, okay.
Good
So
question. I was thinking that this entire game was where the path.
Okay, so, and dive is a little bit different than brawl because you kind of want to spread out, but you got to make sure you guys cover each other's backs. So we do jump up here free, and I think jumping up here for scouting is okay. We just got to make sure that we now have.
I was trying to support the monkey.
And I think that's okay. But I think the thing we need to make sure that we do is that we have translocator close, like we talked about, right? And then we also need to make sure that we time our uncloak, right? And also our positioning. So scouting up here is fine. Let's assume this monkey jump comes in a little bit later.
Okay.
Let's talk about a couple things. Where do we want? Let's start with the first thing. Where do we want to put our translocator? What do you think?
I think in this team fight I put it underneath the monkey, like underneath in the med pack.
I think under here is pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's close and it's on a med pack.
So,
I was just worried about it being caught by another enemy and being removed.
Okay.
But yeah.
If we could teleport, where would we want to be right now, you think?
I don't know.
Okay. Okay, let's look at their lineup a little bit.
Yeah.
Their monkey, right? Assuming we do this properly, their monkey's gonna want to back up, right? Who's gonna help him get out?
Ana. And Diva.
And Diva, yes?
Well, Lucio might, but I don't see it happening. Yeah.
I mean, we can hack Lucio if we see it, but let's focus on Ana and Diva. So who do we think is easier to disable here and less resource intensive? Ana?
Yeah.
Why do we think Ana?
Just because she's more focused. She has this low rate of fire. She's just more squishy. And she's further away from the team.
Okay.
Less peel. Like if I go anywhere near that Diva, that Genji and Lucio is gonna also attack me.
Why do you think it's dangerous if they start attacking to you? Don't you have translocator set up?
Yeah, I do, but I mean, I want to also find value if I can while hacking her. Like also farm EMP at the same time, and if I can get that on Ana, that'd be good.
Okay, I'm gonna propose something else to you, and we're gonna talk about it a little bit.
Okay, sure.
So, the Diva is going to have the people come out, right? Is going to help this Winston coming out, and she's gonna be a little bit easier to hack than the Ana. For a couple reasons. When you uncloak and they don't know where you're uncloaking from, and they have something to focus on, aka the Winston coming out, it's almost impossible to see where you're coming from. So assuming you get the Diva hack off, what happens is then their team has two options. They either stay here, or they have to, because the Diva's hacked and they can't get out as easy, or they leave the Diva because she can't move as fast as the Genji, the Lucio, the monkey, and Widow's kind of stuck over here anyway. But assuming they all back up and the Diva's left here, that feeds into your ult charge, right? Like we talked about building EMP, and she can't eat it because she's hacked. If we go to the Ana here, we already have to translocate back when we get slept or when we get antied. Does that make sense?
Yep.
What do you think about that?
what about hacking the monkey or widow? Assuming I know the widow's there. Would that be better value?
I think hacking the widow would actually be a really good idea. I think the only thing you have to worry about is making sure that you have people to follow up. Because
Okay,
I don't
sure.
think, because right now your Zarya's not ready to follow up, your widow's not ready to follow up.
Like, I should be able to take a one-on-one at that point, right?
I think you should still make sure you have some help, but I think yes, you
Okay.
can take that 1v1. If you scout this widow here and she isn't backing up when you're cloaked, you can take that. I think that's a really good other option. Okay. Is there a reason why you guys feel like you struggle on ruins more than everything else?
I feel like I don't know what I'm doing.
On the Winston?
Yeah, like I feel like I play a too aggressive of a dive.
Okay.
Like I feel like I'm not playing spam dive. I'm playing just dive. That's
Well-
probably like a mental thing. I don't know. I just don't know how to play on this map. I don't know.
Okay. So, then I think the main thing for you to take away from today is like trying to see if you can force people off certain areas, right?
Yeah.
No matter what
Make
comp
them
they're
go into
playing.
areas.
Yep. Use your dives not as like dives into them, but try to move them to certain areas to set up your DPS.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we not? Really interesting fight. Okay, so what do we have here? They have Nanoblade. Oh, this one's... Alright, free. Here's your freebie.
Okay.
Who do we want to
Sure.
hack on the other team to make sure we win this fight?
Well, their Ana has Nano, and we know that, and we probably know they haven't used Blade either. So, and it's 50 in the clock, so they probably have Blade as well. So yeah, probably the Ana.
Ana? Okay.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Or if anyone else makes a mistake, pathing wise, probably hack them too.
Okay. I think making sure you hack either the Ana or the Genji is really good here because they do have the Nanoblade, and if you hack somebody, it's gonna be essentially, it might be like a free MP, where if you hack the Ana and their whole fight plan is literally Nanoblade and follow,
Yeah.
they're not
it'd be
gonna
very
have that for the
huge.
next like 6 or so seconds, and then you can
Yeah.
capitalize.
I know. As a team, we discussed them using Nanoblade next fight, and I think I did hack either of them, but
Okay.
I don't know if I did at this.
Oh, let's watch then. They do have walls, so it's gonna be a little bit harder.
Oh, they used it real early.
Огонь по готовности.
So he bladed me, and I just translocated out.
Yep, that's really good because then he doesn't have dash anymore.
You think a Genji main would know not to do that?
Great. Do you remember that? I think it was with Joel when he was coaching for that one very rare time.
There was one session I was not there for, unfortunately.
I'm pretty sure you were anyway. It was.
I'm pretty sure I wasn't, but go
No,
on.
no, I can't remember if it was with him or not, but
We had Gabe for a while.
maybe it was him. I don't know. Anyway, it was on Nubani, and we ran Echo. And it was last point, and
Old school, yeah.
they had Nanoblade. And so you were on the Echo, and we talked about putting pressure on the Ana, right? Using your, I mean, it's different with MP, but using your ult to put pressure onto the Ana in the backline because we knew they had Nanoblade. It's pretty much the same thing.
Except this time you directly disable, right? Because when you
Yeah.
hack them, they literally cannot press the button.
So do you think it's worth just EMP maybe 2 people if it means denying the Nanoblade?
I think you should
Yeah,
always...
or you can use your manual hack.
Yeah, I think using your manual hack when you can
Well,
is going to
obviously
be
using
like
my
pressing
manual hack
units.
is better, but like if you know they're dashing up, and you can get it within their time frame. Like there was times where I've seen them dash up and I use EMP and I deny either the blade or deny the first slash, and I don't know if that's value or not, value enough to justify using the ultimate.
I think it very much so depends on your win condition of your fight. Because let's say they have Nanoblade as well as, I don't know, what's another ult? As long, like a long,
Grav.
like let's say they have a Grav, right? Then you need to get the Zarya in it as well, so they're gonna Grav and just like wipe you guys, right? So it needs to satisfy the win condition for your team. If your win condition is your team based, then it's like I need to, even if they Nanoblade, it might be good to get the Angie, but as long as I get the Lucio here and as long as we out trade, it's gonna be okay. So it's always relative to what your team plans in that moment. Is gonna be the thing. If you EMP 6, you EMP 6. But like you should always try to make sure that you use your hack and your EMP to like the things that are gonna help you win that team fight directly. But in this scenario, because you didn't really have anything for Nanoblade, shutting down the Nanoblade would have been a good idea, which it was. And you did do a good job of translocating back, so you didn't get as much value from it. You guys won the fight. That's good. Look at the defense here. I didn't really get to look at you guys' dive defense yet. Do you guys normally play dive on defense on a lot of the maps right now?
We either play Zarya Monkey or just Brawl, traditional Brawl. But
Okay.
Brawl is much better, so it wouldn't be really worth looking at.
Okay.
Well, it would be, but not in comparison.
Okay. Let's try to focus on Ruins and your Sombra then. At least for the next 20 or so minutes. Okay, so they bomb in. Oh, they get too unlucky. Okay. So we're gonna go back. Alright. So, we're gonna look at this fight and say, we already know what happened, but what do we think we want to do here? Does
Probably
anyone
stage
have...
a bit better.
Okay, stage. How do we want to stage?
Maybe the Ana a bit more back. I'm nowhere near where I should be as Sombra. I think I should be maybe to the right a bit more. And I think maybe Zarya is a bit too dangerously close to the enemy team. And Monkey is where he should be though. Where's Death? Is Death up there too?
He's top right and on site.
Oh, okay. 1 point's fine, I believe. Maybe.
I think Monkey going up on top of the, like, above that extra, whatever, yeah, up here, is better, because then it denies that area from the Widow.
I think that's a very good thing that the Monkey can do. But I think I would rather, instead of you guys look at, like, where should people be generically, let's try to set up a kill zone like we did on Blizzard World. So where do we want to take the fight?
I reckon right in that square, just
Right
below.
here?
Yeah, right there. That's
Right
it.
there, right?
And I reckon, I don't know, but am I right in saying that we kind of like pinch them so we get like Sombra on the other side, on like the hacked that thing over
On
there?
the Mega.
Is it a Mega? Yeah, Mega. And then we kind of like wait for them or pinch them in there.
I
Thing is,
actually...
they didn't go through there, so.
Okay. But they go up top here. So
Yeah.
if you set a kill zone and you guys don't it doesn't work out, like they don't go there, you guys can actually try to give up the space, and now that they're here, they now have two options, right? And it's go down this way or go down this way, right? And guess what? You can follow your same plan. If they go this way, you're just not going to have someone up here, but you can still have people here and people here. And if they go this way, we can have a separate plan for going that way. And that comes down to a lot of individual. It's like, we're going to set up, okay team, we're going to try to set up for them going here. And then everyone's going to do their own individual thing about setting up. But we want to try to be as spread out as possible. So like you said, we can pinch them. So let's do the square area first, and then we can do back here. So where do we think people should be if they go here?
I think
should
Free
probably
should be
be
like
right
be
back.
patrolling between the two Megas.
Who should be?
Free,
Like between which two megas?
the top left,
And then which one?
the 1 minute near the spawn.
Ah, so these two? So like he's
Yeah.
going to be in this general area?
Yeah.
I think that's actually a pretty good position for a Sombra. What do you think, Free? Do you think you're comfortable over here?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right. Does anyone else feel like they want to position themselves somewhere?
I think my high ground's pretty good.
Your high ground's pretty good?
I can just kind of spray on them from above.
I'm a
Mm.
bit
Take a little
worried
poke
about
damage.
our off-tank Zarya though. 'Cause they are playing dive, and I don't... I mean, I guess if she has bubbles, she has sustainability, but...
What
Okay.
else would you get?
So as long as she doesn't get, as long as she plays smart and keeps track of the people that's going to do the most damage to her, which are Widow and Genji, and the people that are engaged, which is going to be Winston and Diva, she has to just make sure she has an escape plan this way. And as long as she doesn't get like Widow headshot and then jump by the monkey at the same time, she's not going to die. So I think Zarya being up here is pretty okay. But I also actually like leaving the Winston up here. Because, like Kokan said, it stops the Widow from going up there, 1. And 2, it still helps you pinch them when they come down here. Because they can't actually scout you as well. Because then Diva needs to come up and deal with you, or Winston needs to come up and deal with you, or Genji needs to come up and deal with you. And if they do come up and deal with you, then you jump backwards either to your team, or back here, and you're able to go in again when they do come over here. Okay, so now that we ran through this one a little bit, I'm gonna let you guys talk about between yourselves where you guys want to set up if they go here.
Is that the kill box, or if they?
Yep, because remember they went up here. Like I think Derpy said it went up there, and their 2 options are jump this way, or go back and restart.
Yeah.
So let's just assume they take this bottom arrow here. So when they come here, what's our plan? You can change the kill zone, or you can make this the kill zone. I'm gonna let you guys try to talk it out, and I'll just be the moderator.
I doubt they take a fight there.
You don't think they would take a fight there? You don't think they would drop here?
Oh well, they might drop there, but I don't think they'd stay there for too long.
But they just monkey jumped, right?
Yeah, true. Well, they might wait for resources, so
Okay.
I don't know.
So if they wait for cooldowns, where do you think they're gonna go next? Or do you think they're just gonna wait here?
Well, our Ana's kind of open, but she's.
But they know that there's a hacked mega,
Yeah.
so taking a fight on there is kind of risky.
Okay. So let's just, instead of doing it down here, like I said, let's think about what you think they're gonna do. So what do you think is the best option for them to do? And then we can look at that.
If they force the translocate from our Sombra, like if they jump, not like dive there, but just kind of like, just do some damage to Free, and force them to translocate, then they made it kind of like a 5v6 for this couple seconds, and they can dive like.
I think they actually made the right play with creating space with the bomb and then going in.
But you guys already gave up all of that space, because after you guys got your initial kill zone threatened, you guys actually backed up all the way to here.
Yeah, but
Which-
then don't they dive and then like that sort of forces us back a little bit and then they throw in the bomb.
I'm pretty sure what happens is that they do this, like they dive top, we try to sustain top instead of giving it up, and then after we sustain top, we actually don't try to take back the space because of primal, and then they bomb in. So they essentially pushed up
They got a really good sleep on Jimbo.
Yeah, they
That's
push up
what
their
you got.
line. They push up their line up until the point where when they bomb in, they actually have all
There's
of this
nowhere.
already, and you have nowhere to go,
Yeah.
which is really smart. Well, we're gonna assume that we are that we can play perfectly, and we can turn back the clock, and how we would play differently if this did happen. So they primaled up here and knocked us off, but that's
I
mainly
would-
because we tried to sustain.
As soon as the monkey comes down to where Derpy is right now, then I would EMP. And then at the monkey. That's just what I would.
Okay. I would generally agree with that. But let's talk about how we would set up for that, right? Because which is what you guys are trying to work on with dive, right? Because we feel like Derpy feels like he is playing a bit too aggressive and doesn't know where to go at the beginning. And we're also helping Free with his Sombra play, which is a lot of setting up. So we're going to actually talk about the setup here. So assuming they come up here, where do we want to then go after they jump top?
We could sit in the mega, I guess. I don't know.
Can sit in the mega.
It's kind of like, would we kind of like, oh, as in the hacked one where Anna is.
Ah,
but
this
that
one.
would kind of give him too much space.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So where do you think we could go instead?
Probably behind cover, in the middle.
Behind cover in the middle, like here,
Yeah. Yeah, maybe a bit more forward though.
right here.
Yeah.
I think that's
So the
actually a really
Widow-
good place.
Can't see us.
Because assuming you know they have Diva Bomb, you guys can always walk in here to get out of it, right? I also think what that does is that if they rotate around this way, they put themselves, and if they go on point, they put yourself in a position where you guys have all the high ground, right?
Yeah.
So I actually really like that rotation. Is there any other options for you guys?
I don't see any.
Okay. But I would like to go back to what Kokan said, and I don't think he's
just
actually
having
wrong.
someone.
Sorry?
I think just having someone like on top near where the Widow can go. Like even if it's the monkey or free, just someone up there to deter the Widow.
I actually really, that's why I agreed with you earlier. I do actually really like the monkey up here. But assuming they take space here, we need to make sure that the monkey can come back and help. Because if monkey tries to sustain up here too long when his team's getting pummeled, it's going to be a bad time.
So do you think it would be better for free to be up there? Because then he can still scout if they go anywhere else.
I think it'd be better. I do like monkey being up here. And because if they end up doing what they did here and the monkey's up there instead, we can talk about what you did, which is saying like you wanted to EMP like now when their monkey jumps in, because we're trying to punish their engage. Because he hard committed to this space, right? And guess what? When he hard commits to this space and he jumps back, he doesn't have bubble anymore. Especially when we EMP, if we catch him in the EMP. So if we're ready to actually re-engage with the monkey up here, and everyone else is ready to rotate to this way, and if the Anna's playing a little bit closer, she can actually rotate to here and look down here. And then, Zarya is ready to drop down and go this way, or come around this way. Then that's actually a really good fight. Because they already hard committed to this area. And we're going to say, nope, we're going to fight over here. Does that make sense? So that's why I actually really like the monkey on top.
Okay.
And that's what we want to try and do.
So, do you want me to sit on top of where the Widow would be?
In this scenario, yes, because you have your EMP to re-engage, and you have and they have their ultimates to be able to force space.
But in general, unless I have like EMP, unless we have EMP in that, I shouldn't just sit up there casually as like a soft dive area.
I think you can sit there until your team starts getting pushed back. Once you're too far to jump back to your team, then you should jump back to your team.
Okay. Because
if your kill zone is here, then here's a really good idea, right? Because as they walk out here, you just jump onto them. But if they, as soon as they walk past or push your team back where they can't capitalize on this kill zone, then we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Now look at one more team fight. So we are coming close to the end here. Is there anything else in specific you guys want to look at before we finish? What do you guys think? Anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Alright. How about this? We go through one more team fight. We're gonna do the same thing where I make Derpy and Free talk about what they want to do during the setup. And Spoogles can tell me where he wants the other people to go to give him outs as mercy. Okay. So we're gonna set up here, and we're gonna see where they set up before we start talking. Nice pick. Oh, this might be a little bit of a different type of fight. Oh, we did get two. Oh, so it's just gonna be a Russian take space fight. Just a little bit.
What was that, Nano? What happened? Did you call that, Derpy?
Maybe. I don't know. I can't remember.
It was a waste.
But you
Did
can
they kite on purpose, or were they just never there?
they kited because they saw Nano Monkey running at them. But you can see like why we want to use the Nano for sustain, right? Because if we jump in and they kite back, like they actually did a really smart play there, right? Because once they heard the Nano Monkey and the monkey jumped in, they just ran backwards. But if they
Oh,
already
yeah,
commit to the
they
monkey and
still-
then we Nano, that's huge.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
Okay, so we're gonna talk about the setup here.
They both dived Ana.
That's okay. We're gonna talk about something different here. So right now, where do you think we should set up? It's gonna be about the same as before, just as a hint.
Maybe monkey
on
on
the
the
high
top.
ground.
Yeah.
Okay, on the top? Okay, Free, where do you want to be, you think?
Uh,
I would like you to give yourself 2 options, because you don't want to go to the same place every time, as a DPS player.
well, I could probably go on top, the high ground. Yeah, but I guess I would have to use Translocator for that. That's probably not a good idea. I probably want it on a med pack. Yeah, maybe I could be behind them, or I could either play closer to monkey.
Okay. I think the other place you could be is over here. Because then you have a pack in here, and you can shoot this way.
Mhm.
And that way you can mix up your positioning, right? So that you aren't going to the same place every single time. So it's harder to scout you.
Sure.
Okay, that's really good. Spoogles, do you think your Widow's in a right spot to give you an out, as well as to give her sightlines?
Yeah.
Alright. Is there any other places that would be okay?
Don't know, maybe down the bottom or up top.
Down the bottom? You mean over here?
Yeah.
Okay, over here. I actually really like those, and that's really good, because it forces them to one side a lot more. And if they do dive you, then you have the out with you and possibly the Zarya. Okay. But we can see that because we actually try to play like a brawl style here, where we actually try to put them in melee range, we're actually going to have a hard time, because when they jump through, like you said, they dive our Ana. When they do dive our Ana,
You could tell by the way Derpy's halving that it was called that Widow was 1, but he was a bit too late.
yeah,
So
if
they
the
never
Widow was
monkey-
on. Yeah.
And
Sorry.
then they. How did they know our Ana was there? Oh, hasn't it?
I think that was a blind jump.
Okay.
That monkey jump was a blind jump.
Огонь по готовности.
And we got 1 grab
Apagando las luces.
and our EMP. For the first time this game.
I actually think we had the right idea this fight. Okay, so when you guys jump the Ana here, I actually really... So when they jump the Ana here like this, if you guys grab like now,
Огонь по готовности.
and you guys get both supports, it's actually really good. We could have played a little bit more safe on getting poked on beforehand, and making sure we finish off the Lucio in the grab because he has beat. But other than that, I really liked it. What do you guys think?
I think maybe we could focus fire a bit better.
Yeah,
I
and like
reckon
sorry?
If we sit on the high ground and waited for them to dive our Ana or blind jump or whatever they did, then we could have just jumped right on top of them. Because their monkey came in first by himself, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And we could have just destroyed him there because he's cut off from his line of sight from healers. So I reckon if we would have set up on the high ground first, we could have avoided this whole fight. Because we could have wiped out their monkey straight away.
I actually think that would have been a really risky, considering that the other team had nano boost. But I think that what you guys did, as long as you guys did it better, where you guys grabbed both supports, right? And they did dive both your supports. Unfortunately, your Widow did go down early. But if you EMP and your Sombra stays alive, you kill the Lucio here that has beat, you kill the Ana right after that has nano boost, and then you go for the tanks, you guys might have won this fight.
Okay.
But you guys did have the right idea. We just need to add a little bit more precision to it to make sure that we are targeting the right people. Alright. We're coming up to the end here. Is it just a stagger fight? It is just a stagger fight. Okay. So we're just gonna go ahead and finish off here. Unless you guys want to look at anything else in particular. What do you guys think?
No, I think we've had plenty of time.
Okay. So
Do we have any questions though?
okay. So is there anything anyone wants me to keep them accountable on? Like, is there anyone that wants to work on anything specific that they want me to write down here so that we can look at it next time?
Probably just maybe EMP usage.
EMP?
Getting the most EMP usage and just general value on Sombra.
Okay. Is it okay if I add
Because it isn't her job to do damage, I know, but I just feel like I should be getting more damage done. But
okay.
it's just the support's always peeled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome to my life. Can't dive anything anymore.
So when you try to charge EMP, there's two. I'm gonna say this last thing first, and it'll help you out a lot. There are two times you want to uncloak. It's on the engage and the stage, right? When you're staging, you just want to make sure you have your translocator close to you, and that way you can just like pummel damage into the tanks, right? And then you can translocate out, and you have a lot of EMP already. On the engage is the one that we really went over today, is about getting more so value, such as hacking the Ana when they want to burst engage, when they want to burst heal, or hacking the Diva on an exit, and that sort of thing, and try to punish that. And that's not necessarily going to build EMP, but that's how you're going to get the value with Sombra. So, why don't we try to rephrase it to that? So with Sombra, we are going to we're going to say, I'm going to put planning, because if you come back to me next time and you say, I wanted to hack this person here, but I couldn't get around, or I wanted to do this, I'm going to be very happy. And then we can work on the next step, okay? And then the other thing I want you to work on is the damage, like you said, which is something you want to work on, right? The damage in between the staging, okay? And we want to put damage in before we go in, so that when we translocate back, we aren't mispaced with our team. Our team isn't going in when we translocate back. Okay. All right. Does anyone else want to work on anything? Okay.
Don't think so.
I think, in general, for you guys as a team with the dive, you guys tell me if you guys don't want to put these things down. I'm just gonna put influence here. And this means that you're gonna try to push the other team in a direction that you want them to with your dive, which is staging, right? And this kind of goes into staging. Okay.
Putting them in the kill zone, yeah. Well, we try and do that more.
Yep.
Got
And
my dives, intimidation.
Yep. And along that line, for the DPS and support players, it's gonna be a lot of sight lines. Sight lines. Because we want to make sure that the Ana has sightlines, the Mercy has sightlines to the people that she wants to fly to, Death Drone has sightlines, and then your Zarya has sightlines. To make sure that on the engage, that's where you're going to be. And along that line, that's going to feed into your kill box. Okay? Do you think this is a good thing, good base to work off of, for the dive at least, with this comp? Well, not this comp, but the comp that we heard earlier?
Yeah.
Alright. So, just to end off, like, is there any more questions? Alright. Well, if there's no more questions, I think that... Did you guys think you guys got a lot out of this?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright. Well...
That kill box was really helpful.
Alright.
Learning about that.
And you guys want to work around your kill box, right? And you don't need a position to stop them from getting there. If they get there and you, like, surround them, then that's going to help you guys win a lot more fights. So, well, I look to...
Thank you for coaching.
Yep. I look forward
appreciate it.
to working with you guys in the future. This is fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
Alright, I'll see you guys later.
Thank you for coaching.